As I said, my name is Adam Hartwell. I am the Director of Attainable Outreach. I'll be running through a PowerPoint in just a moment that's going to give sort of an overview of what attainable accounts are, how they can be used, how they can be set up. Please feel free to ask questions whenever you feel necessary, or yeah, we also have time, of course, at the end. I'm going to move a little bit quick so that make sure we have time for those questions. I will make sure that copies of the PowerPoint that I use are sent out so that you guys have the ability to look at them at length. You don't have to worry about trying to write down everything you see on the screen. And we'll just, get moving as best we can. Additionally, you see that there's a QR code floating over my shoulder that does get my direct digital business card to you. So if you have other questions, you can feel free to reach out. Very easy to get a hold of. So that being said, let me share my screen and we will get rocking and rolling through this whole bit of fun. All right. So, as we said, we're going to be talking about Attainable, which is the Massachusetts version of the Able Savings Plan. We are going to skip right past how to use Zoom. I think you guys are very comfortable with that at this point. Been here all day. So I work for MIFA, which is the Massachusetts Educational Financing Authority. We are a state authority that was created in 1982 to help families plan, save, and pay for college, as well as reach their other financial goals. So we are, quasi-related to the government. The Stephen Beck Jr. Achieving a Better Life Experience, or ABLE Act, was signed into federal law and amended the federal tax code in 2014. It adds what's called Section 529A. Now, some folk might be familiar with 529 savings accounts to save for college, and that's sort of where they got a lot of the ideas on how to create these accounts. The legislation created what we call ABLE accounts, which are tax-exempt, tax-advantaged investment accounts for eligible individuals. We'll go over what eligible it means in a moment, with disabilities that can be used for what are called qualified disability expenses. Don't worry, we'll get into a lot of detail about that as well, while still keeping eligibility for federal public benefits. So this is for federal benefits, not necessarily state things. So federal benefits would be things like Social Security, that would be federal housing waivers, anything like that. MIFA is the state sponsor. Fidelity Investments is our program manager. So they're in charge of making sure the money does what it's supposed to do. And, they're very good at it. They're a very big company. They're nationwide. So that's why we've partnered with them to be in charge of that aspect of things. There are 49 active ABLE programs in the United States. You are allowed to open one ABLE account in the country, but you're allowed to open it in any of those programs. So if you look at the details and say, I really like the Ohio program, you can open one in Ohio. If you really like the California plan, you can open one in California. It might be harder for you to go see the bank, but you can do it. We actually have a very significant number of people who open Massachusetts plans from outside of our state because we offer a lot of very good benefits to people who open our program. In Massachusetts, accounts from the ABLE Act are called attainable savings accounts. That's our Massachusetts name for ABLE accounts. So if I say attainable, it's just like me saying ABLE. It's the same thing. I'm just talking about the Massachusetts version. The Attainable Savings Plan was launched in 2017. So these are fairly new programs. An individual is eligible to be able to open an attainable account if the onset of disability occurred before the individual turned 26 years old. So it doesn't matter how old you are right now. If you can show that your diagnosis started before you turned 26, you can open an ABLE account. And actually in the year 2026, we're expanding that to anyone who can say that they got their diagnosis before they turned 46. You should be able to receive SSI or SSDI due to your disability, or self-certify as saying that you have certain limitations to being able to do day-to-day activities without some sort of assistance or accommodation or device. And you can see that there's like a list from the Social Security Administration called their Blue Book. They also have a compassionate allowances condition. There's a big list over here. So this is, anything from, autism or Down syndrome or Cornelia-de-Lange syndrome to significant digestive issues to endocrine disorders to long-term cancer recovery, musculoskeletal disorders, anything like that, would qualify you to be able to open an ABLE account. Attainable accounts allow the account owner or beneficiary to save above the $2,000 SSI asset limit without it hurting your benefits. So you don't start losing it if you're putting your money into an attainable account. And that's one of the great strengths of those accounts. Also, family and friends are allowed to also put money into those accounts. You have relatively immediate access to funds. I'm going to put a little asterisk next to that because when you take money out of these accounts, you are doing a small stock market investment trade. So sometimes it'll take a day or two for it to go over to like your checking account or whatever for you to be able to use. So you don't have to go through a lawyer or anything, but it might take a day or two for it to clear. These accounts do provide people with financial independence as well as several tax benefits that we'll go into details about. Now, one of the biggest questions everybody's always got is what am I allowed to use the money in my attainable account for? Almost anything that's not fun is the really simple way of describing it. But this is the official list from the IRS. You can use it for anything related to education. So you can use it for your tuition, you can use it for your textbooks, you can use it for accommodation devices for doing your education. Things relating to housing. I have a whole page on housing next. Transportation. That means it's not just you can use it to buy a car. You can use it to pay for Uber. You can use it to pay for the bus. You can use it to pay for the subway. Anything that gets you from here to there, you're allowed to use your attainable account to pay for. Employment trainings or supports, assistive technology or related services, anything relating to your health, prevention and wellness. So like things like, gym or things like that, something that helps you be able to stay at your best. Funeral and burial expenses. These accounts even work after you pass, which is a nice thing. Basic living expenses. So, anything you need in order to just be able to live your day-to-day life, food and clothing. Personal support services. If you need to pay someone to come to your house a couple times a week just to help you out with something, you can use your attainable account for that. You can also use it to pay your lawyer or your financial management or anything like that. Additionally, we got clarification a couple years ago, specifically because we went after it. When it comes to basic living expenses, that food is a qualified expense. So you are allowed to use your ABLE account to pay for groceries, to pay for DoorDash, to pay for Uber Eats, to go to McDonald's, to go to Applebee's, go to any restaurant, takeout, anything like that. If it's food, you can use your attainable account for it. Just make sure you keep your receipts. All right. When it comes to housing, these are a lot of similar to what are often defined as household costs for in-kind support and maintenance, which is a word set you guys may have run into as far as what you're supposed to contribute if you're living still with your family or something. So you're allowed to use your attainable account to pay for mortgage or a house down payment if you want to buy a house. You're allowed to pay first and last rent payments as well as rent itself. You're allowed to pay real property taxes. Real property taxes means property taxes on the land and the building, as opposed to like any property taxes on like your computer or something. Things that you would move with you if you were buying a place and moving somewhere. That would be personal property. Real property is the stuff that stays on the property when you leave. You're allowed to pay for heating fuel. You're allowed to pay for gas. You're allowed to pay for your electricity bills. You're allowed to pay for your water and sewer bills. You're allowed to pay for your garbage removal bills. Essentially, like I said, you can use your attainable account for almost anything that's not fun. Now, attainable accounts have a group of a very specific list of people who are allowed to open them. It can be the individual who has the disability themselves. So, any of you, wonderful self-advocates, you guys could open one of these accounts for yourselves. Or if you feel like there's somebody in your life that you want to have be in charge of the account for you to help you out, they would be what is called a person with signature authority. They're the person who controls that account. And this is a hierarchy. So whoever is on this list has to be promising nobody higher on the list wants the job. So, and that list, of course, is the person with the power of attorney, their legal guardian, a spouse, a parent, a sibling, a grandparent, or a rep payee. So again, you see the first thing on the list is you guys. It's the individual yourself, right? So if you don't want anyone beneath you to have that power, they're not allowed to do it. If they fill out the paperwork without checking with you, then that's fraud. So they have to make sure that you guys are clear about that before someone opens those accounts for you. But if someone who is in your life who's really good at finances, there might be a person that you might want to work with and figure out who's going to run that part of the show.
Got a question.
Yes, sir.
So let's say 1 month you're in the hospital
Yep.
and you appoint somebody to manage the able for that month.
Well, probably you wouldn't need to worry about it if it was only a month. I'll be honest about it. It's one of those things where
You see
it's going
where
to
I'm
get.
going with this.
Yeah,
Like
and I'm saying, yeah, you could.
somebody's got to manage that.
Yeah, I mean it's a savings account, so it's not like it needs to be actively watched every day.
Okay.
It's gonna get deposits in it if you've set them up to be automatically deposited in it. There's not a lot of stuff that would need to be done with it unless you needed someone to be able to take money out of it in order to pay your bills. And I actually do have a way that I can let you that you can sort of assign someone in that role without giving up the power.
Okay.
And I will get into that's called a third party authority, third party access, and we'll get into. I'll go into that in just a minute. We actually, I make sure that I have that cleaned as its own slide.
Okay.
All right,
Adam, can I also ask a question?
please do.
Um, so say you are somebody who's um, a little bit on probably the younger side and a little earlier in your journey of figuring stuff out, and you have um, a family member or someone significant open the account
Yep.
for you, and they have control over it.
Mm-hmm.
5 years down the line, when you're a little more established and you've gotten more experience, can you then take control of that account, or
Yeah,
does it stay with them?
you can pass over authority to another person. Additionally, if you want to, give it a try without trying to go through all the paperwork of taking full authority, you can do the opposite of what I was just saying with James, where when I go over third-party access, someone could give you that third-party access so that you could use the account, see how you like it, see if you're comfortable doing it, and then if it really works for you, then you could move into saying, I want to be the person with signature authority going forward, and then you could do all the paperwork to trade the account over. So we'll go a lot of things. I think we'll put a lot of information into third party the third party access slide in just a moment. Because these are tax advantage accounts, they have rules on them. One of them is you're only allowed to put a certain amount into them each year. Now the nice thing is that amount has increased almost every year that these things have been in existence. So currently in 2024, that annual contribution, you can't put more than $18,000 per year into the account right now, unless you're working. If the individual with the disability, the person who owns the account, is working, they're allowed to put up to whatever is the lesser amount, the smaller amount, either an additional $14,580, or whatever they earned that year. So if you earned $12,000 this year, you could, if at work, you already can put in the 18, you can add the 12, you can now put 30,000 per year into the account. If you earned $20,000 this year, you can only put up to that 14,580, so it'll be 32,580 you're allowed to put into the account each year. Not how much you have to, that's just the most you're allowed to put into the account in a given year. These accounts are only allowed to have $500,000 in them at maximum. That's when they stop. And your SSI, they don't affect your SSI. What usually happens where people are talking about you can't work too much, you're going to affect your SSI, that kind of stuff, or because you're going to have more than $2,000. Instead of at $2,000, the money in your ABLE account, it doesn't affect that until you get to $100,000, which is a nice difference. I see a question from Moses.
Yeah. Does that also affect to anyone, let's say, that doesn't work?
If you are not working, you can only put $18,000 per year into it. If you are working, you can put even more money into it than other. They kind of are trying to say, "Hey, we're going to give you an ability to save money, even if you're working, so that you can have even better opportunities to move forward."
Yeah, but how can we yeah, but how can the person know if it's real or if it's fake? And if the person just wants your money?
Which person are you talking about?
Oh, well, no. I'm talking about like anyone. I'm just speaking in general, like anyone in general.
Well, once again, this is a bank account, so you'd be this isn't you getting money. This is money that you would be saving up. So you're allowed to put
Oh,
$18,000 into the account if you're not working. So like if you're getting $900 per month from Social Security, you could put all of it in your attainable account if you wanted to. You might not want to, but you could, and since that'd be 900 for 12 months, you'd come in under the 18,000, so you'd be fine. But let's say you were getting, $500 from Social Security, and you were earning, I don't know, like $1,500 per month at work, right? So you're getting $2,000 per month coming in. Then there's 12 months, so that would be $24,000 per year. So you'd want to be able to put more than that 18,000 into your savings. So it's about this gives an opportunity for people to save up their work income in ways they weren't allowed to before. I'm sure a lot of you guys have run into spend downs. A lot of people are like, you have to get rid of some of your money because you've got too much and it's going to start hurting your benefits. These accounts kind of protect you from that because you instead of doing a spend down and having to get rid of money, you can put it in your attainable account and then turn around and use it to pay your bills. So this is not an account. We don't give you any money. This is not a we give you money situation. This is a place for you to save money that you're getting other places. Does that make sense,
all right.
Moses?
Yeah, I
Adam, could
think
I
that's
just address?
yeah, I think that's where I was a little confused. But since you clarified, so I'm not as confused.
Okay.
With it.
And
So thank you for answering my question.
my pleasure. There was another question?
Yeah, Adam, could I just address a little bit of what I think might be behind most question as well?
Sure.
Um, so I just want to address that like able accounts are a very safe if way to save money. The bill that made able accounts a thing was very tied into the self advocacy community. It was something that self advocates themselves fought for and even wrote some of. So able accounts are very safe.
Yeah. Again, the way that able accounts operate is essentially it is an investment account. It is a bank account that's in that has a choice of how much you put into the stock market that is run by Fidelity Investments, which is a uh, you know very large bank. So it's about as safe as you can get as if you're still using the banking system. All right, so let's
I
keep walking
just
and rolling
got
through this.
another question. Is there a minimum to dollar amount to start opening one?
No, we're easy. You can put $1 in, call it a day. We do
A lot
have
of checking accounts, a lot of savings accounts, they'll say you got to have this amount to open the account.
yeah, but we're better
And
than them.
I know, and so I wanted to clear that up for people before we
Yeah,
got into this.
I will say that we have a protection in place that you should be aware of, which is that one of because you're only allowed to have one of these accounts in the country, right? If you open more than one, you get in trouble with the IRS and they get mad at you. So one of the things that we put into place is we put a sort of an automatic protection in, which is if your account goes down to zero, you spend all the money and it's got no money in it, and then you don't ever look at it, you don't ever open it, you never touch it for 4 months in a row. So it's at zero, and this is not either or. So it's at zero and you don't look at it for 4 months at all. We will close the account because at that point we believe that you might have forgotten the account exists and you might try to open another one. So, and we don't want you to get in trouble with the IRS by having two. But that's only if there's zero money in the account and nobody even opened up like the app to look at the account for 4 months.
All
All
right.
right. So it takes a lot. All right. There are, once again, just want to finish out sort of some of the rules on attainable. You're not allowed to have an attainable account and a actively being contributed to retirement account from your employer at the same time, because they both have the same tax benefits and the government only wants you to have one at a time. So you can have a retirement account if you that you used to put money into, and now you're going to have an attainable account, but you can't have both having money go into them at the same time. The Massachusetts ABLE account, the attainable account, has no annual account maintenance fees. That is not true for all ABLE accounts. That is true about us and only a couple others across the country. Because these are investment accounts, and we'll go over the portfolios that you're allowed to select from. There is investment fees that can be charged from your account based on what investments you decide you want the account to do. Generally speaking, not going to say everything always, but most of the time, because our investments are 0.2% to 0.8% of assets. A lot of our portfolios have like a 5%, 4%, 6%, whatever return. So it's much higher than what you're being charged. So it ends up charging you nothing. Well, it charges you, but you end up making more money out of the investments than you spend on them. All right. So with the ABLE Act, individuals are without the ABLE Act. One of the things we've run into many times, right, is that if you go over the $2,000 limits, you're not supposed to save money. Yeah, and when you do, if you go over that 2,000, you get a bonus from work. Suddenly, you have to do a spend down. You have to get rid of money, right? And that means so that they can keep you at that level. One of the great things about attainable accounts is, again, you can take that extra money and instead of spending it, just move it over to your attainable account, use it for your bills, and you no longer have to worry about saving money for big expenses without fear. Because you can save up. Remember, you got health in our list, so you can save up for a surgery. I need a good car so I can get to work. You can save up in your attainable account without it hurting your SSI limits because you can put it in your attainable account. I want to move. I want to get an apartment that's close to a doctor that can really work with me and really help me. You can save for things in your attainable accounts. This is why we love attainable accounts, is they can provide a way around some of these limits that have been sitting on creating problems for folk for decades upon decades. Additionally, you can save for, once again, these are some areas that I really think that attainable makes a difference. You can also save for education because you can use your attainable account to pay for your college tuition. You can also use it to pay for trade school. You can use it to pay for your textbooks. You can use it to pay for assistive technology. You can use it to pay for tutors. When you're in high school, and this is a thing I'm sure you guys have run into a lot, especially you're talking to sort of younger advocates and what have you. The teachers do a lot of the initiation. Oh, you need a speech pathologist. You need a physical therapist. We're going to find one for you. The school's going to bring it for you. Once you leave high school, everybody has to start doing it themselves. You got to really become those self advocates. You got to ask for the things you need, and a lot of times you have to pay for them yourself too. And it's hard to do that when you've only got $2,000
Tell you
allowed.
what you need, but you guys still got to go find the shit.
Right? Absolutely. And again, all of that usually costs money. Finally, and this is just a wonderful little trick you can do with your attainable account. You can, because you're allowed to save money for covering your bills in your attainable account. If you can save up in your attainable account enough to be able to cover your bills for a couple of months, you can try working more hours at work because you have a cushion to protect you. So you're like, all right, everybody's always told me I have to work less than 25 hours per week. If I don't do that, I'm going to lose my benefits. Okay, I'm going to save up enough to cover my bills for about 3 or 4 months. And then I'm going to try working full time. I'm going to try working without benefits. And if it works, Awesome. You're working full time now. You've proven you can do it, and you've got money in the bank to cover your bills. If it doesn't work, didn't work, I don't have benefits right now, I'm going to scale back to my 25 hours work that I was doing before. And now you can use that savings to cover your bills so you don't have to worry about missing out on what you were going to use your SSI benefit for while you get it reestablished. And if you do that within 12 months, there's no problems because SSI you can get restart without issue within 12 months generally. Before you pull this trick, make sure you talk to a benefits counselor who knows your exact situation, because I don't know everybody's exact situation, and I'm not going to pretend that I do. But this can offer a pathway for people to try working more hours who have been told that they're not allowed to because they're worried about those benefits. So this is a way to use the system that can give you that opportunity to try. One of the big questions that I get when I'm in the community talking about these accounts is, all right, I set up the account, I put money into the account, I don't know how to get the money back out of the account. What you're going to do is you can't spend money directly out of this investment account. You have to transfer it to another bank account. So if you've got a bank account with Bank of America, Citizens Bank, whatever, you can just move the money over to there and then spend it. What I have found makes life a lot easier for a lot of folk is you open up essentially a bank account with Fidelity as well as opening up this investment account with Fidelity. They have a thing called the cash management account, which allows you to be able, you can just open their app and move the money over. Makes life real easy. Those accounts come with a Visa debit card. So after you move it, you'll be able to swipe the card and say, there, I paid for it. Again, I like letting people know about things that can make things easy. I see a hand up from Annie.
I have a question because I have a savings and checking, but they're not allowing me to get another savings account. They charge me to get another savings account.
The bank that you currently have?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's the bank. That's not, the universe. So if you open a savings account with somebody else, then, you would, depending on which bank it is, depends on whether or not, it all depends where to be charged. The Fidelity Cash Management account is a free account, so you wouldn't be charged to open that up. And once again, you'd be able to, one of the big advantages there would be the ease of transferring money out of an attainable account. I
Can that
wouldn't
be to any account?
Sorry,
Can I open that in my bank, or does it have to be a separate bank?
if you wanted to be able to move money in like Fidelity's app, you'd have to have a bank account with Fidelity.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, to have don't open another bank account, just open another bank account. It gets confusing and makes a mess. But this is a way to make it really easy to be able to use your attainable money. And it also makes it really easy for you to track your spending with your attainable money. Because remember, this is a tax advantaged account, which means that you are still subject to, if you're putting money from your Social Security in there, they still can audit what you spent the money on. So you still have to track where the money's going.
Okay.
Okay. So this can make that pretty simple, because you say this bank account is only that, and that makes it real easy to be able to be very clear about what's going in and out of that.
Okay.
Where was Yeah, okay. So attainable funds can be transferred, like I said, though, to any bank you want. You don't have to do one with Fidelity. But which bank you choose, they have different speeds for money transfers. Some of them can take 5 business days, so just be aware of that, when you're making your plans. Once money goes out of the attainable account, it is no longer in the attainable account. And I know that seems very obvious, but I want to be very clear about this, because then if you put money back into the attainable account, it counts towards that $18,000 annual limit. So if I take $1 and I put it into my attainable account, and then I take it out, and then I put it in, and then I take it out, and then I put it in, and I do that 18,000 times with the same dollar, I have used up the ability to put $18,000 into my attainable account this year. So you really want to just take the money out that you are planning to use because when you put it back in, it's still going to count towards what you're allowed to put into it each year. There is a special IRS rule, which I like to make sure everybody's very clear about, which is if you take money out for the QDE, the qualified disability expense that is housing, you have to do it in the same calendar month that you take it out. You can't take it out on April 30th and pay it on May 1st. That'll get you fines from the IRS. So, if you're going to do something for housing like rent, you want to take it out on like the 15th so you can give them a couple days early. That's fine and dandy. But you have to do everything for housing in the same calendar month. Take money out in February, spend it in February. Take money out in August, spend it in August. Because the withdrawals, again, are an investment trade, make sure you're giving them the couple of days to make that trade happen in the stock market. So that'll take, if you're doing it with Fidelity's own bank account, even if you're doing the cash management account, it'll take a day or two for that to clear because they have to do it through the stock market because these are investment accounts. And just as a final note, because it's a question I got a couple of times, if you have savings bonds and you want to put them into your attainable account, you do have to cash them out first. You can't just put them directly in. All right. If you want to open an account, it's a very simple process. You're going to go to fidelity.com/able, and then you just follow the directions. They do have the savings account disclosure document. It is a very, very long document with all of the details about these accounts. I highly recommend people download it and look it over with someone you trust because I'm doing sort of a fast overview in this presentation. That's going to give you all of the details. It's got all the legal stuff in it. All right. Additionally, as we've mentioned, Fidelity is a giant bank, right? They have lots and lots of departments, and a lot of them have no idea about ABLE accounts. So if you go and Google Fidelity and call the phone number, who knows who's going to pick up the phone? They may know what they're talking about, they may not. However, on the webpage, fidelity.com/able, and also available to you right here on our screen, and remember, I'm going to be giving these slides out at the end of this, that phone number goes to a special team at Fidelity that knows all about these accounts and can help people walk through opening the accounts and answer questions about which paperwork you need and all that kind of stuff. You can see we also have TTY access if you have someone who's hearing impaired who wants to do this as well. So just as an FYI, don't try and call the general Fidelity number. Go to this, this group that specializes in knowing about these accounts. Because we've had people try to just call the main Fidelity, and they get a standard investment broker, and they're like, "I have no idea what you're talking about." All right. When you open your account, you're going to choose an investment portfolio. We have 9 portfolios available. You can see I also have I'm going to jump to the next page because it's easier to see a little bit. This sort of shows you the breakdown of how they work. This is between, stocks and bonds and short-term annuities. It's all the market. So again, it is subject to market. If the stock market goes up, your stocks earn more money. If the stock market goes down, it loses more money. Now, most of the time, historically, what the stock market does is this. It goes up and down, but it goes up and down while moving up. So the longer you have it in the account, the better it does as far as getting you extra money. The vast majority of people who open our accounts go for sort of the middle of the range, 40, 50, 60% in the stock market, and so that gives them some pretty decent returns. It means because these are investments, they do make money. But if you can be very aggressive, which also means you're taking a lot of risk. If you do like 85% in the stock market, there's a good chance if something goes wrong with the stock market, you're going to lose some money. If you go very, very conservative, it's going to be much safer, but it's also going to grow much slower. If any of you guys are not really familiar with sort of how this investment return silliness works, let's say you were putting like $100 a month into a savings account, right? And you did that for 20 years. right? You just were really good about it for 20 years, from age 20 to 44. That would be $24,000 if you like put it under your mattress or something or stuck it in a piggy bank. Or, frankly, it would be like $25,000 if you put it in a regular savings account because it would grow a very, very slow because most savings accounts have like a 0.1% return as far as the interest, right? Um,
And then that's if you never touch it.
that's if you never touch it. That's right. I can't random spending habits. I can't do everybody's math on, but I can sort of give you the basic math.
Right. I just wanted to make.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. If you're going for sort of the middle of the road here, and I'm going to use a historical example here, I cannot predict the future. Please, nobody hold me accountable for what the future does. But, let's say you were making about a 5 or 6% return on that same money over that same 20 years. Instead of having $24,000 in the account, you'd have $46,000 and a couple $100. There would be an extra $22,000 in the same account because of how the investment will keep adding money to it over time. Now, again, the more money that's in the account and the longer it's there, the more it does that. But, so if you put $100 in and take $75 out all the time, it's not going to grow very fast. But there is a return. And that's when we talk about the investment fees and the return, that's what we're talking about. So again, you can be all the way over here in an Able money market account and have it's pretty much not going to grow at all. But you put the money in, you take it out, it's essentially a savings account. You put it over all the way in the 85% index fund, or it's going to follow the S&P 500 and what have you. It's going to try its best to grow fast, and there's also a lot of risk that it's going to, fall off a cliff. So again, the majority of folk like to sort of stay in the sort of the middle. But there is no pressure from us on whatever choice you decide you want to make. You're allowed to pick any of these when you set it up. And I'm pretty sure it's on my next screen, you are allowed to change it twice per calendar year. So between January and December, you are allowed to switch between these things twice. So if you're like, I'm really feeling good about things, I want to make things a little bit more like 60% for a little while. No, you know what? That was a mistake. I did that for 2 months. I don't like it. I'm going back to like 30%. But then you got to let it sit till the next year because you've did it twice. All right. And I saw a hand and then the hand went down. Did somebody have a question? Okay.
You answered it.
Oh, cool. Yes. I like it when I get to things. All right. Now,
Excuse me, Adam, sorry to interrupt you. Amber,
What's up, Liz?
I have to go. I have to think things to do with my mom.
Okay. No problem.
Bye, guys.
Take care of yourself.
I gotta go also do things.
Okay. Well, I'll good to see the people get it. And remember, I will get the slides out so you'll be able to read up on everything that we cover after.
This is being recorded as well, so they're gonna have access to it later.
Fantastic. All right, so let's keep rocking and rolling through this so we can get all the information out and make sure that everybody's got as much as we can give them. All right, so you can do direct deposit with your attainable account. That can be direct deposit from your work or from your SSI or SSDI benefit funds. Direct deposit of paychecks have to stay under that first $18,000. So if you want to put more than $18,000 from your work into the account, you can only do direct deposit until it hits 18,000. Direct depositing is just like any other account that you set up. You got to fill out a routing number and the account number. Now, if you're doing this with your job, I'm going to warn you, you might have to go talk to the HR department because they're going to be confused because these are investment accounts. They have different amounts of numbers than savings accounts and checking accounts. So the piece of paper they usually give you doesn't fit. They can do it. They just need to do it themselves. They can't just have the machine do it. So just as a warning. Now you're allowed to take your direct deposit of like your work income. If you're working, you can split that between a bunch of different accounts when you from your job will do it for you. See, I want to put half of it into my attainable account and half of it into my checking account. They can do that. When it comes to SSI and SSDI, they're only allowed to put it in one place. So if you don't want all of it in your able account, you have to put all of it in your checking account and then pick how much you want to put into your able account and do it yourself. Okay, so you're going to be doing that deposit. What you can do is, once again, using that cash management account counts as a bank account. So you can put anything in there and split it up from there. You are also, one of the ways that we set this up is if you want to sort of just have it be automatically contributed to, so you can set it up and forget about it. It puts a little bit of money into it every month. We can set that up. We can set it up with any amount that you want. The way that we have it sort of on a default, if someone wants to, activate that option, again, this is a choice. It's not a thing anyone has to do, is about $15 per month or $45 per quarter. It's like a Netflix subscription, but instead of taking your money, we're saving it and trying to make it grow for you. This is a bunch of legalese, specifically mostly for rep payees. But essentially it's saying that you're going to get the need to make sure that you're keeping track of how much money goes into the account and how it's spent, particularly if it comes to benefit funds. This also shows you the reports that you're going to have to do on taxes if you're a rep payee to say this is where the money went and how it was spent. Generally, if you're a rep payee, you need to do those every year. Unless they're exempt, and generally the only people who are exempt are guardians of minors. So someone who's under 18 who is receiving benefits. But yeah, essentially that's all of this page is just going over some of the tax documents. One of the things that you do want to be very, very careful about is that last point on this slide here, which is that if you mix your Social Security benefits with some of your personal money, you want to be very clear about keeping track of, all right, I put this amount of my Social Security income into that bank account and then I spent it, because the Social Security Administration is allowed to audit these things. All right, let's talk about the very rare time when you might be subject to taxation, because generally these are tax exempt accounts. If you take the money out and you spend it on something that wasn't on my big list of things that are eligible expenses, and the money you spent wasn't the money you put in, but was actually that money that you got that grew on the account, like we talked about that extra $22,000, let's say you spent that, you're going to get an income tax charge on the extra money and a 10% penalty on spending money that was supposed to be in its tax advantage account on something that it wasn't supposed to be used for. It's very rare, but that's how that could happen. Because I'm not sure if we were clear about this before, any of that growth I talked about a minute ago doesn't have any income tax on it. It doesn't. You don't get the same taxes you even get from your work when it comes to the investments you get with these accounts. They're really, really great in that way as far as trying to help folk be able to get a leg up and afford for the increased amount of expenses that come with a lot of disabilities. Whether those are accommodations or needs for supports. There's a lot of things that cost money, and the whole point of these accounts is to try and help people be able to cover those. The only other thing that you might be taxed on is if you were, you got overpaid and you had to pay it back. All right, let's talk about some of the tax benefits. In addition to, once again, having no income tax on the growth, which is awesome. Provided the beneficiary is the same on both accounts or their family members, you can take money from a 529 college savings account and put it into an ABLE account with no fees. That program is coming to an end soon. It comes to an end on January 1st, 2026. So if you have somebody in your family who has a college savings account that was set up for you, or especially, once again, if you're working for some younger folk who are advocates who might be coming out of the high school system and had that set up, this is a way that, if they're like, that's not the direction I want to go with my life, that money can move without getting a bunch of penalties on it. ABLE account owners who meet certain criteria can also receive a saver's credit on their federal taxes for their contributions into their ABLE account. So you also get an extra benefit on the back side there. Individuals are eligible if they are age 18 or older, are not a full-time student, and are not claimed as a dependent on anyone else's tax return. Finally, once again, this is what we were mentioning earlier. As long as the withdrawals are spent on qualified disability expenses, all the growth on the account is income tax free. So, even if that growth is tens of thousands of dollars and you don't have to pay income tax on it. Now, this is James, this is what you were asking about earlier, and also sort of what we were talking about for people who might be moving into taking control of their own accounts there, Amber, this is that whole thing. This is my third party access slide. So the person with signature authority can give someone else a level of access to the attainable account. That could be a investment advisor, that could be a parent, that could be, a program manager, that could be whomever, right? Because you can only have one person with signature authority, we see this a lot with one parent is a PSA, the other one gets get third-party access. And the nice thing about this is you get to select what level of access they have. They can just see the money. They can, know that it exists, or they can go all, they can see it and they can see what it was spent on, or they can see what was spent on, and also be able to take money out themselves and spend it themselves. So you can select how much access that person has. This is called granting third-party access. You do it by completing what is called an account authority form on fidelity.com. You print that out, you fill it out, you sign it, and you send it to Fidelity. When I write program manager here, I'm talking about the money program manager. We're talking about Fidelity Investments. So you give that to them, and that can grant somebody a level of access. So if you're going to be in the hospital for a couple months and you want someone to be able to pay your bills, you could give them that access. And then the exact same piece of paper, print out too, is how you can take that authority away. So if you're like, all right, I want someone else to have this now, I'm going to send this in and it says, you don't have it anymore. And then I'm going to send in a new one that says, this person's got it now. So this is how you can sort of control that aspect. Again, this is also something you can do in sort of reverse, Amber, where with that situation we were talking about, where if the parent is the person with signature authority, they could give full access to their child to try it out, try out being in charge of their stuff without having to do a whole bunch of paperwork to transfer ownership, and say, oh, well, this was a lot of responsibility. I don't feel I'm ready for it. Okay, we're just going to take that back. Or you could say, I feel great about it. I did amazing. You're right. Let's do the paperwork and make this account yours. As always, and because I've said this before and I'll say it again, whenever you're doing anything with your money, make sure you're talking to somebody you trust about money, right? If you've got somebody in your life who's your financial consultant, because when you do this paperwork, you're giving someone access to your bank account. Don't do that casually. Do that with a very strong defense. All right. You don't want to give anyone access to your money who really, really, really isn't involved in your life. All right. This is my sad screen, and I apologize for that because this is what can happen with your account after someone passes away.
Uh-oh.
Yep. So the beneficiary, the person with signature authority, can assign what's called a successor participant in the event of someone's death, which essentially means that the money can go to somebody else's attainable account after all the actions that are on the account have been completed. Or they can assign a successor beneficiary, which is just someone who's going to get the money that's in the account after everything on the thing has been completed. Now, this is the scariest sentence to a lot of people in my entire presentation. After the death of the beneficiary, the account gets frozen for 12 months and is subject to what is called Medicaid recapture. Medicaid can ask to get paid back for some of the health insurance they've given someone for any state that the person has lived in. Now, I'm going to tell you a couple things to make that less of a scary sentence, because a lot of people are like, they're going to take all the money. First off, we meet with the National Association of State Treasurers every year. They're not really doing it. They're not doing it a lot, at least not yet. They could, they're allowed to, but so far they're not really. They feel like they're not being really aggressive about it. Number two, it's after everything else has been done. So here's the thing. The money in that account, if you remember back to my qualified disability expenses, it include health, burial, and funeral. So even though it's frozen, you're still allowed to pay for any outstanding qualified disability expenses. So you can pay for the hospital bills, the burial bills, the funeral expenses out of the account before Medicaid can touch it. And that might just use it all up. So then who cares?
And if funeral's starting at 10 grand.
So was that?
I said, and funeral's starting at like 10 grand.
Exactly. This is what I'm saying. You know, that might just get rid of it all altogether. Anyways, right? And finally, I have had some folk read through it on a legal level. I'm not going to guarantee this, so I'm always going to be very careful about what I can tell you is absolutely certain and what we're pretty sure is true. We're pretty sure, based on how we've read it, that if there's less than $25,000 in the account, Medicaid isn't even going to bother. So, all of that being said, this sentence becomes much less frightening.
Wow.
Now, if you need more information on the accounts, you can always go to mifa.org/attainable. They have this nice guy with a beard who shows up and does presentations. You can also, there's a national resource center, because remember, this is a federal program. This is the federal government. This is not just Massachusetts. This is the country. So we have a special thing for that. The Fidelity, of course, has their own webpage about it. The Social Security Administration has their own page about ABLE. And we also have a email sign up. Remember, I'm going to be sending these slides out, so if you want to do that later. And that's where we send out any updates about any changes that we've made to the accounts or how we've improved them. For instance, 3 years ago, rep payees weren't allowed to open ABLE accounts. The Able Age Adjustment Act, which was the federal act that we passed that allows us to move it from before someone turns 26 to before they turn 46, we only passed that last year. So, you know, we are constantly, and, you know, once again, last year, you could only put $17,000 in the account. This year, you can put $18,000 in the account. We've been able to improve these accounts almost every year that they've been in existence. And we like to be able to keep you updated. And that's what we mostly use the emails for, is updates and also just tips for being able to use the accounts. All right. That all being said, we're also all over social media. If you ever feel like, you know, saying hello. But if there are any additional questions, I'm certainly happy to take them at this point.
Hey, Mom. Don't have any questions?
Actually, I do. When you were talking about the thing for a trusted person, like for family and stuff like that, can that also like go towards like a member in the family? Let's see, like a sister or a brother.
Are you talking about who can open the account?
I don't know. I know you were seeing like a lot of stuff, and
oh yeah, there's a lot of information. I grant you that. Yeah.
You mean like the beneficiary, like who gets your account afterwards, or?
I
Well, just-
guess I don't know.
Third-party access?
Yeah. No, do you mean the person that can help you manage the account?
Something like that.
Yeah, third party access.
Yeah.
Or
Well, I
that
mean,
kind of thing.
yeah, your a sibling, like a sister or brother, is absolutely one of the people who can be a person with signature authority, so they could be in charge of or controlling the account, or they could just be someone that you talk to about how you use your money in general. They can have, you know, you pick who's in your life, who you feel like is the person that you trust to make those good decisions.
Well, basically, the only person I can trust, of course, is my mom, because that's I'm not saying I trust my brother, my own brother, but it have to be with my mom, because I would tell her anything that has to do with money.
Well, then you would start with your mom, but also maybe make plans for the future for someone to take over at some point.
Right.
And that could be your brother or it could be an attorney. It could, there's lots of choices out there.
Well, basically, attorneys. I don't know, but if it was someone in my family, definitely, because I would pick a member of the family, and God forbid if something happened, and then I would need to talk with my brother.
Yeah.
And well, then yeah, there we go.
Right, well, did you feel like your question's been answered?
Yeah.
All right. Do we have any other questions?
What do we think, folks? Any other questions?
So do I have to have this cash management account to access the money?
No.
Or is that just like one possible?
Yeah, it makes it easy because you can move the money back and forth with it with the Fidelity app. Makes it real simple. So that's the reason I talk about it, because it can make things simple. But you can move the money back and forth between your investment account with Fidelity to any bank that exists. So if you already have a bank account with, Florence Savings Bank, Citizens Bank, Boston Bank, whatever bank you want, you can do it.
Right. I just want to make that clear.
Yep.
So Adam.
Yep.
If I walk out of this presentation today, say I want to open unattainable account, I do all the paperwork, all that stuff. How long can I expect that process to take before that account is like functioning?
Very quickly, honestly. I don't know the exact, because a lot of it's going to be making sure that you have all your paperwork in order. But after everything's in, it'll be pretty much, it'll be close to, I wouldn't say more than a week.
Okay.
It's opening a bank account, but yeah.
That's a week to 10 days is fast for a bank account or any account like that.
Yeah, like I said, I would say, I'll cover myself and say 2 weeks, but it's not gonna, it doesn't take long to get it operational if you have all the paperwork that you need to be able to do it. Because, once again, you're gonna have to show, is like if you want to set up direct deposit, you're going to want to make sure that you've chosen what portfolio you want, all that kind of stuff. But once you've done that, you sign up, and they have a very user friendly walkthrough of a website to open an account.
Thank you. That's really helpful.
And how much? Remind me, was it 1,800 a year?
18,000
a year.
If you're not working.
18,000.
Yep. So, and with your SSI doesn't get affected until you have 100,000 in the account, and a maximum allowed in the account of 500,000.
Okay.
So if any of you guys get to, over $100,000 in the account, I'm sorry, we're gonna have to slow down your SSI payments.
Yeah, none of us ever reach
very few people do. This
$5.
is
At the end of the month, many of us don't have $5 in our account. Never mind.
Well, I mean, here's the thing, right? This is just me, being frank with y'all. I spent over 25 years, working alongside folks. I've worked in employment services, I've worked in residential services, I've worked with the school system. And the reason that I'm so passionate about these accounts is that I constantly ran into people having to make bad decisions. I'm not allowed to have this much money. I have to, my boss thinks that I do a great job at work, but I'm not allowed to work more hours, because if I do, I'm going to have too much money. Yeah, these things, somebody coming up to me and saying that is terrible. Terrible.
Sent out those big checks during COVID. It's like, okay, now I got to get rid of the whole COVID check.
Exactly. And instead of getting rid of it, if you had your attainable account, you could put it into your attainable account and you're set.
You know, what do I do instead of I bought a 65-inch TV instead of putting it into an Able account?
Yeah, but what if you got another one and you already got a 65-inch TV? Now you got to figure out another thing that you don't need, but you're forced
Right.
to spend the money on. And that
Right.
drives that makes me so upset that people are being forced to spend money on things that they don't want in order to avoid a problem that shouldn't exist.
And
And so,
you know,
once
Social
again, having this as a
Security,
choice
food
is a
stamps,
good
and
thing
all
to,
these other places don't even tell you Able accounts exist.
well, most people don't know that they do. That's my job, is I'm trying to fix that problem.
Because, you know, we don't even know these things exist. So how are we supposed to even?
You guys are self advocates. You get to know these things exist. That's the point of why we're here.
And I'm hoping that you guys will also tell other folk that this is a thing for them to look into. Once again, nobody has to do this program. There is no pressure for anyone to do this program, but
No.
I like people to know their choices. And so being aware that there is a new choice out there that can help some folk is I think a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time, Adam.